live. So let me tweet out the link. It looks good on YouTube. If you do pull up YouTube, make sure you guys mute yourselves.
I'm in a different position.
You're in a different position.
Some of them swapped.
Oh yeah, because it's like the order at which I added you. Tweet me out.
I can just sort of poke Kelly if I do this.
Oh, wrong way. See? Okay, no. It took me a while to figure that out.
All right, I'm not going to tag you guys in this one just for the sake of time. So if there's there's a new tweet going out.
Oh, Sarah, your picture went away.
I know.
Oh no.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. I was about to say we have one viewer, but I think it's me.
I was on the YouTube and I clicked off because it was too weird to like see us. It was a delay. So I kept looking back and forth. It was like freaking me out.
10 seconds ago.
All right. Let's see.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so I'm gonna.
I see your tweet.
Yeah. So as people are joining us, we're just giving people a minute or two to kind of come in. And I don't know how to tell how many people are watching. 2 watching now. Yes. If you're watching, send us a comment or something.
Hello, person.
2 people, maybe.
Oh, one of them's me for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Double Sarah's.
This is a weird time, so I don't know if we'll get as many.
We might be just looking at each other, staring at each other.
That's okay.
Hi,
hello, other person.
The best way to ask questions if you're watching is to post a comment on YouTube. I will be clicking back and forth at Twitter to see if we have any questions there, but that's going to be whenever I think about it. Kyle retweeted us. Yay.
Hi, Kyle.
Oh, hi, Kyle. I know you. Kind of.
You'll have the cutest video.
It was so cute. I was like, look at this.
Well, he's an actor, so he acts. So
he teased another video is coming on Monday. He teased it.
So we did it yesterday before I went in for my dental surgery. So that was fun. So we'll see how everyone likes it. So yeah, he's like pushing me out of my comfort zone. So
it was good though. So.
I don't know.
I thought you were natural, Brenda. You were natural.
Oh, thank you. I was like cracking up right before it. I don't know if you can tell that I'm like trying not to like laugh.
Yeah, you did a great job.
There are like some mentors. I'm like so jealous because they'll have team names and they'll do like all this stuff. I'm like the laziest person. I'm like, no team name. I'm not doing any graphics. I'm doing nothing. I'm too lazy.
Yeah, I think me and Lee had a team name, but it was just like things that I liked. Like we were Team Dragon Coffee.
I like that.
It doesn't make any sense.
I like that. It makes me think it's like a fiery hot coffee. It's good. Like burn your tongue when you eat it. Drink it, I mean.
Flavored coffee.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, we have 1 like on YouTube, so that's exciting.
Ooh, that is exciting.
Yes.
So is this being like on the hashtag, pitchwars or no?
I tweeted it out on the hashtag.
So did Kelly.
Okay. Yeah.
And I retweeted it, so.
And it looks like
people.
Maybe next time we should have like a hashtag for like PW live chat, and they can put questions in Twitter too, maybe.
So you can watch it natively on Twitter as well. So that's good. I just looked at it. All right. So we have a couple people watching. So we're going to go ahead and get started officially. and feel free to ask questions on YouTube. You can also at us at pitchwars on Twitter with questions, but I'll see that only when I click over to check it out. So if you can ask on YouTube, that will be a lot easier for us and you. But I'm going to ask everyone to introduce themselves. I'll start. I'm Sarah Nicolas. I am the managing director for 2019 for Pitchwars. And I am a young adult author. I'm the author of Dragons Are People Too and Keeping Her Secret. I think that's, I work for a library. That's my day job. So that's awesome.
That is awesome.
All right, Gwynne, we'll have you go next.
Okay, I'm Gwynne, and I'm mentoring adult this year. I was a Pitchwars mentee in 2016, and I worked with Marianne Marlowe, and here I am.
Brenda.
Okay. I'm Brenda Drake, the founder of Pitchwars, and I am a young adult mentor this year, co-mentoring with Kyle Cowan. And I guess that's it, right?
Sure.
No. Okay, go ahead. Erin?
Oh, yeah,
Awesome.
Erin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just a restriction. We were doing a circle. Hi, I'm Erin Tidwell, and I was also a mentee in 2016 with Haley Stone. And this year, Haley and I are going to be co-mentoring adult. It's probably all the important stuff.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kelly Garrett. I was a mentee in 2014. I've been a mentor since 2015. I'm on the Pitchwars committee, and I will be mentoring adults with my 2017 mentee, Mia Manansala. So, and I'm super excited for this year.
And hi, I'm Kina. I'm completely new to the Pitchwars group this year, and I'm really, really excited to be here. I have a memoir about growing up in a tent in Botswana coming out in November.
Wow.
And my follow-up book is an epic fantasy with monkey protagonists. Also takes place in the same place where I grew up. I'm mentoring adult this year, and I'm really happy to be here.
All right. Okay, so we don't have any questions yet, so we'll start with my questions. And so we know how Brenda got started with Pitchwars, but how did you first become aware of Pitchwars and what drew you to it? We'll start with Gwynne again.
Okay, I became aware of it through Twitter, through watching stuff going on, and I figured, what was the worst that could happen? So I applied and I got rejected. So really what happened was I was in the exact same place that I was before, except for I got some valuable feedback from the people that I had submitted to. And the next year I decided to try it again, and I was luckier and I was accepted as a mentee. That's how I came to, run across it, but it's kind of hard to miss it, especially if you follow PitMad and all the other Twitter pitch contests going on.
We're going to go to Erin because we know how Brenda found it.
I guess we know how that, yeah. All right, so the first time I heard about Pitchwars was shortly before the application period for 2016. Someone had posted on one of my writing forums, hey, my friend wants to apply to this contest. What do you think? Does it look legit? So I'm like, I'll go check this out. And I started reading the website, and it looked so legit. And I started reading the mentor bios, and I kind of fell in love with a couple. And I thought, I've got an old trunk novel. It had been to several agents. I'd gotten some feedback that I didn't know how to fix. So I sent in my novel. So
cool.
That's how I discovered Pitchwars.
And were you picked up? Yes?
Yeah. And I didn't expect to be. I thought, I'll just do this thing. It just...
Yeah. That was great. Who was your mentor again?
Haley Stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I found out about Pitchwars through Sisters in Crime. There's a Guppies group, and someone mentioned it. And this was in 2014. And so I saw it, and I had a manuscript I had just finished, and I'd been querying it. So I was like, sure, I'll apply to it. And I literally applied, and I forgot about it. And so my mentor, Sarah Henning, she'd get so annoyed because she'd be on my Twitter, stalking my Twitter, and I wasn't tweeting about Pitchwars or anything. I was tweeting about Real Housewives, but I literally had forgotten about it. And I found out that I got in because my friend was the one who messaged me oh my God, you got in. And I was sleeping, it was the middle of the night, and I woke up, I was like, what, huh? So I have probably the anti-Pitchwars story, but I'm proof that if you just have a manuscript, you can still get in. You don't have to be super active on Twitter. So
yes, how things have changed.
I know, right? Now I'm always on the hashtag. So.
Kina?
Okay. So when I started writing my book, I did it completely offline. I didn't know any other writers. I didn't know anything. I researched everything about querying and finding an agent just by reading blogs and stuff. And so when I finally got my agent, he said, how many Twitter followers do you have? And I was like, I'm not on Twitter. I don't know. So he said, you need to start upping your social media. So I got on it and discovered all the stuff that was going on in the writing community. And I realized you don't have to do all this by yourself, like completely in isolation, knowing no other person who's doing this. I had no sense of timing or what querying was like, except for my own experience. And I was just amazed at the community that was there for people who were waiting, because that's mostly what we do, right? So I was really excited to see that. I started trying to interact with people on hashtags, learn what hashtags were, and I applied to mentor and pitchwars last year. I didn't get in, which is probably good because I had, as you'll see when you hear more from me, 4 rewrites of my book to do between signing with my agent and going on submission. But I mentored for 2 other programs. I mentor writers at my day job. And I just am astonished at the level of community and support that there is. And I'm just really thrilled to know about that now. And I can't believe how helpful that would have been for me a few years ago. But it's such a great thing to have, just to be able to share experiences.
Okay. So we have a question. Yay. I'll go ahead and show this on the screen real quick. It's from Linguistics. Sorry, Kelly, Aaron, Kina, you're invisible. I'll turn it off.
Fix my headset real quick.
What advice do you have for someone submitting to pitchwars for a 2nd or 3rd or 4th time? Is it a bad idea to submit to mentors you've submitted to in a prior year if you have a new manuscript? So I'm going to answer part of that myself, and then I'll turn it over to you guys, because mine and Lee's mentee from what year was that? 2016. She had submitted to me previously, and it was a different manuscript. She had submitted to me previously, and I didn't request anything. And so she had told us later that she was not going to submit to me because she had submitted to me before and just assumed that I didn't like her writing or something. But we had on our wish list, if you have queer fantasy, and you don't submit to us, we will hunt you down, and so she saw that and she's like, well, I have to submit to them. I don't know if she's scared or what, but and I didn't even remember her from the year before because I hadn't requested. So I'm glad that she did submit to me a 2nd time. And I know on the chat last night, Marion had a similar story too.
I think it was Gwynne.
Yeah, that was my story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Anybody else?
I can go. So I say yes. If you submitted to me anytime in the last 4 years, definitely submit to me again. Even if you have the same manuscript, the only thing with that is if I gave you feedback on it, I'd be looking to see if you kind of incorporated that feedback. So if you're literally just submitting to me the exact same pages and words in the same order as you did last year, then I'm probably going to feel the same way about it. So that's my thing. If you did a extensive rewrite on it, then definitely resubmit the same thing. And if you've submitted to me before and it's a whole new manuscript, definitely resubmit to me, please. What's Brenda doing?
All right.
Well, I mean,
So I'll go and I'll say.
Okay, go ahead.
It's okay.
One of you's got to go.
Aaron, go.
I'll go. Okay. So I would say no, if I wouldn't submit the exact same manuscript to the exact same people, but if you've done a significant update, change the book or have a new book, I mean, people can grow so much from book to book or even year to year working on their craft over time that I don't think it would be a problem to submit to the same mentors again. A new book is a new story with probably new developments.
You can also ask them on the hashtag too, or ask them once wish lists are open too, just to be sure, because you only get 4 picks. So I always say, don't waste a pick, So.
Well, that's what I did. I submitted to Marianne 2 years in a row. And the second year I asked her, it's like, is it okay if I submit the same manuscript that's undergone extensive revisions? And she said, sure, do it. So I'd been sitting on the fence about whether or not I was even going to enter Pitch Wars the second year. So it was nice to hear that she had remembered my manuscript and was all for it.
I also know that sometimes whenever our manuscript is really close, but I've decided to go another direction, and I see that that person has entered the next year and with a different manuscript and didn't submit to me, I'm like, no, but to me. So
yes, you get offended. You're like, how dare you?
I know. I understand it, but I also like, no, I want that.
I think a good example, I didn't pick her, but Lane Fargo. She was the first person I ever requested pages from in 2015. I ended up not picking her, but then she resubmitted in 2017. I didn't pick her again, but someone else picked her, and that book became Temper, which came out this summer.
We're debut buddies.
It's actually on sale right now, $1.99. Book Club, guys.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for that question before we go into the next one? No? Okay. So we have a question from Amanda Boone. Amanda says, how many manuscripts are typically submitted for Pitch Wars each year? Out of all the submissions, how many of those that follow the guidelines actually get mentors? Thanks. Someone was listening to the chat last night because I was.
Sarah, you're like the numbers person. You're like the best
Sarah
person.
is like the number person. I'm like, I don't know, just like a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, I don't have my spreadsheets up right now, but
she has them, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, last year, for example, we had 4,100-ish submissions, right? And so I'm actually going to type it out on my calculator real quick. So we had 115 slots, right, guys? With wildcards, yeah, 115 slots, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
And so if you do the math on that, and so that's 4,100 unique submissions. So that's like times 4.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the percentage of people who get in is like 2.8%. Just quick back of the envelope. Is that right? 2 point, yeah. And so so that's why we say, like, if you don't get selected, it's not, don't take it as a judgment on you, because like, if you think about an agent, they can take on, if they like 3 or 4 manuscripts, they can take on all of those manuscripts. Whereas a Pitch Wars mentor can only take on 1, no matter how much they like the others. And so it is a really small percentage of people who make it in. And that's also why we emphasize like the community and participating in the chats and like all that, because you still get a lot out of it, even if you're not chosen.
And you're not any different off from when you apply to after. If you didn't get in, you're in the same position, and it doesn't hurt you to try. Like everyone talks about self-rejection, you shouldn't self-reject yourself. Right.
Anybody else have anything to add? That was more like a stats question, so there's not a lot, but
yeah, I mean, it's I think when you see the stats, it seems kind of like scary and overwhelming, but it's not like it's because, like this percentage of fantasy or this percentage of like, there's the numbers are just numbers. It's nothing to do with any kind of like who the person is or what type of genre they write. It's just like, someone responded to your book and wanted to mentor it for 3. So I always say, just go for it, So.
Yeah. All right. We have another question from Linguistics. Of the submissions you receive that you like enough to consider mentoring, what things push you over the line to loving it and offering to mentor that manuscript? Let's go ahead and start. Let's start in the middle with Kelly.
Okay, so for me, I'm a big voice person. I feel like I can fix a plot, but I can't change someone's voice, and I would never want to change someone's voice. So if I read your manuscript and I love the voice on it, I shouldn't say this, but like, I feel like if the plot is not horrible, but I can work with the plot and fix it, as long as I feel like I can fix it within the 3 months of the mentoring period. So I think that's the thing. Also, I kind of forgot the question, but I think the other thing is also kind of seeing if what I think the issues are with that manuscript, thank you. With that manuscript or issues I think I can fix. If it fits my strong points of like, I'm like really good with plot, I'm not good with description. So if I feel like the book needs a lot of description notes, I'm not the mentor for you because I can't help you with that. I need help myself. So I think those kind of things like that. So
anybody else?
Yeah, Sarah, I can go. I can't speak to pitchwars, but the mentorships that I've done in the past, what really pushed me over the line is the fact that the writer was paying attention to lots of different aspects of the story at the same time. They weren't just staying in their safe space. So, if characterization was their safe space or plot and plotting was their safe space, it was clear that they were actually at least trying to work on the parts that they weren't good at. It was easy to work with a manuscript where you can tell they were trying, and even if you saw weak spots, you could tell that every aspect was sort of moving along in the same direction. But if one part of it was really well done and the rest was a hot mess, that don't really know what to do with that. But if they were trying to work on all those aspects at the same time, then that was really appealing and showed a lot of commitment to that particular story.
Brenda, do you have anything?
Mine is basically like Kelly's. I'm totally like, if the voice is there, you can kind of, fix everything else, but you can't really fix the voice as much as you can if there's a plot arc issue or characterization issue or anything like that. Other things like that. But I always look for voice. Like, I have to hear the voice and it has to grab me to make me go for a manuscript.
So I'll say, and this may make me sound a little like mercenarial, but I kind of am. But if Kelly's like she is, well, also like I got involved in the publishing industry as a publicist, so like I'm always thinking about market. And so if it comes down to like two manuscripts that I love equally, a lot of times it's going to be what's more marketable, and that's like, if everything else is equal, it's not going to be something that's like more important than, craft or voice or something like that. But that's like just one extra thing to add in. So Amanda, who was asked the questions about the percentage, she said, thanks. That helps me set my expectations going into this. That's good. Okay. So E.R. Hoffer asks, how many requests do you make, or what percentage from the submissions you receive? So this is mainly going to be for like past mentors.
Well, when I make requests, I really have to love it, and I try to make as few as possible. So, because I have to read the whole manuscript if whatever I choose. So I don't make as many requests.
I think last year I might have had 120 submissions. And we only requested 5. Part of that was just because I was managing director last year, and I just really didn't have enough time to know I could read as many fulls. But also, it was just a matter of, I really wanted to make sure something I could respond to, and I wanted to make sure that I could give them, because if I request a full from you, I get feedback on that. So.
Right. So do I. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just because that was just 5 I felt like I responded to, and I felt like I could help. This year it might be 10, like it might be 15, and there are definitely, because we have a spreadsheet with it for adult where we kind of keep track of what everyone's likes. And there are a lot of mentors who will ask for 20, and they might not always ask for fulls, they might ask for partials. So every mentor is different, some might just ask for 1 or 2. So it just depends on each mentor and what they want and what they're responding to.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh,
I rely on the synopsis a lot, and the sample page or chapter that you're giving to us. The synopsis doesn't have to be great either. I just have to know where the story's going and what's happening in the story. But that helps me to decide on, if I want to ask for a full. And I don't really ask for a partial, because if I ask for a partial, and I need to keep reading, I'll get all nervous if I don't get it right away. So I'll just ask for the full.
For me, so my order is I read pages, then I read query. And actually, I don't read the synopsis unless I have the full, just because as a mystery, I'm a mystery. Well, I write mystery, and so for the genres I like to read, I don't want to know what happens. So.
Yeah, so every year I felt like I would tell myself that I wouldn't request fulls until I read all the submissions, and every year there'd be like a couple that I just couldn't wait, and I would just request right away. And also it varies quite a bit from year to year, like how many I requested. So there'd be some years where I didn't find one that I knew was like the one pretty quickly, and so I would request 20. From 20 people. And I'm not reading all of those. So a lot of times I'm reading until I stop caring. And so I'm not reading like 20 full books in a month. But yeah, and then some years, like the year I co-mentored with Lee, she had, I think she changed the label of like the submission in our inbox. It was like, this is the one. And she like tweeted about it. And she's like, Sarah, I found it. And I was like, how dare she like choose for me? And then I go and read it. I'm like, oh no, you're right. This is the one. So yeah, so I think it differs widely depending on what's on your inbox and what you fall for. Anybody else have a question? I mean, have I answered that question? Okay, so we have a question from Kristen. She says, hi, everyone. Will there be an Ask Mentor chat scheduled next month? Yeah, so I didn't explain this in the intro, but we used to do video chats with mentors 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And the technology that we used to do that has been discontinued. And so that's why we're doing like these kind of last minute surprise chats is we're trying to test the different technologies and see what will work for us before we schedule video chats. But there are definitely going to be Twitter chats that take place only on Twitter. So not necessarily video, just like the regular hashtag Ask Mentor chats. So those will definitely be happening. And Lee is working on scheduling those now. And I think this seems to be working for us so far. So if it does go well all the way through, we're going to try to schedule some scheduled video chats where you actually have a little bit of advance notice. Yeah, so we will definitely be scheduling the Twitter ones and probably the video ones as well. Okay, so we have a question from Amber. What are the most common things that would turn you off from a submission? Let's start with Erin. Sorry, I put you on the spot. Oh, your mic's off.
You're muted.
I pushed the button. It's this little button. It's terrible. I sit on all the time. I would say something that really comes off as sexist for no good reason. And I've come across manuscripts like that in working with other programs, and those are always the biggest turnoff for me.
Kina?
Yeah, I think that I would definitely echo that. I think that there are definitely some, rape would be another one of them. I have no interest in reading anything about that. I'd also say that in terms of some of the longer, more complicated books, if I can start reading it and know that this is just going to be another epic quest situation with, the sort of standard stuff we always see, I'm really not going to be motivated to read 120,000 words of this. And if you can tell from the very beginning that this is where it's going, then that's sort of disappointing.
Gwynne?
I would say that once the wish lists come out, anything that's not specifically called out on my wish list is something that's going to turn me off from reading it. Trying to force fit a manuscript to fit somebody's wish list, I can see through that a mile away. So just stay true to what you have and don't, like Kelly said, don't waste a pick on people. And I'm not interested in stories that demean or belittle anybody in any way at all. So positive interactions with other people. I'm really character based. So if I see characters that are being demeaning to others, I'm not going to want to read that.
I think mine would be if someone's telling a story that is not their story to tell. I'm very much like, I want stories, if their own voices, I want them to be by the person that should be telling the story, or like if it's diverse or whatever. So that's would turn me off if you're not supposed to be telling that story, kind of.
I agree. I think bad rep is big for me. And I think it's kind of similar. What if I say something like we'll put what we don't want on our wish list, and if you guys still send that to me, I feel like you didn't really read it. I think, especially with genres, like even like every year I say certain genres, and I'll still get people who waste the pick on me, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I want someone at least who pays attention enough, like who actually reads and pays attention, like like that to me is important. I know I should be, but it is. So,
no, but that's a good point, because it's actually really good practice for pitching to agents without pitchwars too.
Yeah,
like, are you paying
right.
attention to the submission guidelines for each agent? If you're not, then in some cases, better to learn you're on the wrong direction here before you query somebody else.
And I always laugh. I feel like there's always someone who creates a spreadsheet of all the wish lists, all the mentors, and it's always wrong because I always get the wrong. And it could be a pain in the butt to have to read 40 wish lists, but this is like, I feel like this is your career. This is kind of you need to put that time into your career by actually going through and seeing what's a good fit for you. Like you said, it's good practice for when you're looking for an agent as well. So. I don't really think you're throwing throwing things at a board to see what sticks. So.
No, I mean, you see on Twitter all the time, agents are like, don't BCC 200 of us and submit that way. Like, what are you doing?
So mine is, I have like a really small, like nitpicky thing that just like the last couple of years I've been like, what's going on? I think it's a result of a lot of people are saying no paranormal or no urban fantasy. And so but they want magical realism. So I got so many submissions that were just straight up paranormal, werewolves and vampires like running wild in the street, and people called it magical realism. And yeah, and it's also like, I think you don't know the genre that well if you're calling it a genre, and I can tell from the first page that it's not that genre. And so that's one, I guess, that, and you can like transfer that into a larger picture thing, is that when people just don't seem to know their market very well, they don't seem to have read widely in their genre. That's a big turnoff for me. So I muted a spam person. A spam person had found us. So if you guys saw that,
what are they selling?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you guys the screen name, but I could tell from the screen name it was spam. So that was awesome. E.R. Hoffer had said, thanks. Your insights are very helpful and insightful. So inspiring to hear about your author journeys. Thank you very much. So we don't have any questions. Hold on, let me look at Twitter real quick. Yeah, we don't have any questions lined up. So if you guys want to ask questions, feel free to like throw those in there, and we're gonna finish. I promised them it would be 45 minutes, so we'll do 12 minutes more max. But so let's see. I had asked yesterday about queries, so let's ask today about first pages. What is it that you really like to see in a first page, and what are some of the things that you don't like to see in a first page? What's going to keep you reading, I guess. So we'll start with Gwen.
Okay. When I was first writing, everybody said have the action be in the first page, right? And so I have done lots and lots of query critiques and first 5-10 page critiques, and I see a lot of misplaced action in the first page, like hurry up and get to it, because that's what's going to attract somebody's attention. And the real reality of it is that there's no magic formula that you can use in most writing that's going to have you care about characters that you've never met before when something drastic happens to them right away. So you have to be a really skilled writer to pull that off. And I forget what else you were talking about there.
It's hard, right? You forget.
So
I think what they mean is not start your first page in action, like with an action scene. It's in action, like they're whatever they're doing, it's an action and it's like more showing than telling, and it's an action, and they're not just sitting around eating cereal at their kitchen table. That's another, because I'm with you at that on Gwynne.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do see an awful lot of stuff that's, it's a great attempt to draw somebody in, but it's not quite the right place for it. And with everything, you need a little bit of background before you get right into it.
Mm-hmm. So I answered mine with Gwynne.
Erin?
So I think I would really like to see a character with a clear voice, very quickly, and clarity. I see sometimes people will try to open with something very mysterious, and then you end up being very confused instead of intrigued. And there's kind of a fine line there sometimes, but I don't want to be confused.
Yeah.
Kelly?
I think a lot of backstory. I think sometimes people try to put too many characters right away. And I'm like, I don't even know who your main character is. So I'm not going to know your dad and your sister and your brother and your boyfriend and your coworker, And so I think those two things. And so for me, it is about kind of getting to know that character. And so I do like it when it's more of a scene where we're actually seeing them versus like them telling us what's going on. So.
Tina?
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo what a lot of other people have said, and just to add a different element, especially when you're writing about a magical world that you're creating. If you create a lot of terminology or language or acronyms that you haven't explained what they are, it's hard to know that, this long stream of words is a greeting versus an animal versus an explosion. And if you can't figure out what's going on, then, why go any further?
Yeah, one thing from a critique that I just did like 2 weeks ago, especially for fantasy novels. I guess you don't have to do this in contemporary as much, or even science fiction, but when it's a fantasy novel, I think a lot of people forget to let us know what kind of technology the world has. And so if I go into a fantasy novel, just because this is the majority, is I'm going to assume it's like a medieval type technology level, right? And so if you're like 10 pages in and all of a sudden someone has a wristwatch, I'm just going to be thrown off because I didn't realize that we were in a world that had the technology to have a wristwatch, and it's something that's really easy to forget in a fantasy novel that's not medieval.
Yeah, I think tone is important for other genres as well. Like let's just talk about mystery, just to talk about it. But like if your tone is a lighter, cozy tone, and then all of a sudden you switch to like, I don't know, something really dark, and it's very jarring for a reader because you're kind of setting those expectations of what it is. So. All
right, we have a question from Kira. Kira asks, is opening with a character in a sad place something that is less compelling for you and readers? Do you have thoughts on this?
That's a hard question.
I think it depends on how it's done.
Yeah.
To me, it's like you can do anything but great. If it's in a sad spot like that, if they do it right and pull you in, you can do it. It depends, I guess, how you write it.
Yeah, it depends on your genre too. I mean, there are some that can work with that really easily and others that don't demand it at all. But I always feel like if it's important for the character to be in that place and the author can convey why, then it's great because it draws you in right away.
I think the idea of tone as well. Like example is a cozy mystery. A lot of them with the tropes are that it starts off with the character in a very low, not necessarily sad space, but they're in a low space where they maybe have, lost their job and they moved back home and they broke up with their boyfriend, and so you kind of can get a sense of that. But again, because it's a cozy, it's not going to be like, it's going to be more of a lighter kind of way of sharing that information. So versus a mystery or a thriller, obviously a low place in a thriller is going to be a different tone than a cozy. So.
For me, it's going to be a harder hook. It's going to be harder to get me interested if that is the hook. Like if the point of that scene is that they're sad, that's harder. But if there's something else going on and then they're also in the sad place, then that's going to be a little bit easier for me. And I think it's just because like that's just a personal preference. Like I don't like books that make me cry.
Yeah.
And some people do. So it may be different for different people.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Like everything we're saying here, there's going to be a mentor who feels differently about it because there's 106 mentor team. So
yeah. Oh, what was that? All right. So we are out of questions from YouTube. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask each of you to go through and tell me what you have coming up. If you have a book coming out for sale or, anything like that, anything you want to promote, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to do that.
Oh, shoot. Let me go grab an ARC. Hold on.
Okay. We'll go with Gwynne. We'll go with Gwynne first.
All right. Well, I don't have a book to show you because I'm on submission. But I will tell you that, I'm a romance writer, and we've got a lovely community for romance writers called All the Kissing. We've got podcasts and blogs and a good Facebook group. So if you're looking for a group of romance writers, you should come join us.
Brenda?
I don't have anything coming out soon or anything. I had Annalise Rising came out in January, and I'm in the middle of writing a new fantasy book. I'm not sure how it's going to go, and then we'll be going out on submission on it. So I don't have anything coming up.
Okay. Erin?
No, I hate to follow the sad train of not having anything coming out, but we'll get something more exciting very soon with someone else. Yeah.
I also don't have anything coming out. I don't have an ARC either, but I do have a bookmark. So this is my second book. I can't figure it out. There we go. Hollywood Ending. The first one, Hollywood Homicide, was actually my Pitchwars book from 2014. And then this is a follow-up. It's a series. It's a lightweight mystery series. And this one, actually, Hollywood Ending, was a Today Show best summer read pick a couple months ago. So,
And she had a fun way of how when you met Michelle.
Oh yeah. So right after the Agent Showcase in 2014, Michelle Richter from Fuse had requested my manuscript. And so there was a mystery conference coming up that I knew she was at. And so I told her, I was like, hey, I'm going to be at the conference. So I was like so nervous to meet her and see her. And so that night we were at the bar and we were talking with her and my friend and also an editor. And we were drinking and having a good time. And then she leans over and says, I want to talk to you about representing you. And I almost like I freaked out. Like I got offered rep in a bar.
So yeah, it was fun.
Kina?
So I have this. Ooh, it's an ARC of my book. It's coming out November 12th.
Wow.
I'm giving one of these away on Twitter right now. So if you want this book right here, you can have it. But yeah, so that's what's happening right now. There's lots of little bits and pieces around that and other things I need to write. But I have a YA fantasy I'm working on and an epic fantasy that takes place in the same place that my memoir does. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but right now it's all about this shiny friend right here.
Yeah, I am working on a manuscript that hopefully I can get to my agent soon. It's about a girl does BattleBot competitions in high school, so that's fun. So we did have a couple.
What was that? Does what competitions?
BattleBot.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, combat robotics.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
I want to read that one. I read Dragons Are People first one way back.
Yeah. Yes. Brenda is probably the main reason I didn't give up on that book entirely. So yeah,
I love that book. I can't wait to read the next one.
We did have a couple of questions come in, but if you guys need to go, feel free to go because I only promised you 45 minutes. But we'll try to answer these 3 questions real quick, and then we'll sign off. So any questions asked after this, we won't answer. So we have a question from Hannah Miller in a manuscript that is in a not well-known industry, whereas the balance between using jargon that would be common knowledge to the characters but not to the readers. in my adult romances, I have ones that are, I have a main character as an engineer, and that was something that I had to look at really closely. She's a mining engineer. And so what I tried to do is a lot of times, if I needed to use a technical word, I would see if there was a different word that would still convey the same thing, but would be more understandable to people. So I didn't like completely lose them. Because like engineers, I don't know if you've ever heard an engineer speak, but we speak entirely in acronyms. So obviously I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah.
You would totally lose me.
Sometimes we lose Brenda when we're talking about video broadcasting technology too.
But what, Brenda, if you didn't know what like NSFW.
NSFW.
I was like, what the heck? I don't know.
And there's like another one she didn't know either.
TLDR.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anybody else have any comments about that?
Yeah, I write rock and roll romance, and I'm a former roadie, so I know all that jargon and technology. And it was such a part of my life that I didn't even think about it when I was writing. I just threw it in there, and I got this great feedback from someone saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I had to do the same kind of thing, which was try and find another way of saying those same things, but still make it sound like it would fit within somebody from the industry. So it's a good skill to have, because you're always going to have to explain your terminology to somebody somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I don't think it's an uncommon problem. It's sort of the same if you're writing science fiction or fantasy and you've got an invented bunch of people or invented magic system. You kind of have to slip it in there, explaining as you go along, and not try to throw a bunch of new things on top of someone and expect them to understand it.
Yeah.
I think for me, like obviously I'm Black, and so my characters are Black as well. And so there's some cultural things that I've put in books where both my editor, who's white, and my agent, who's white, are like, I don't know what that means, you know? So then you have to have that kind of question with yourself is, do I take it out? Do I try to explain it in context? Like, what do I do? You know, so I try to sometimes use context, you know, to kind of like, hopefully through the context, you can understand what I'm saying without me being like, this is so-and-so, you know? So it just depends on each case. So
Yeah. All right, we have a question from Nick. How many form rejections before a writer should put the manuscript aside and work on something else?
can't answer.
Everyone's faces. That's gold. Well, so
Depends on
I'll
how
say,
stubborn you are. No, just kidding.
no, for real, it does. Also, it depends on your genre, because I feel like if you write in a smaller genre, there's going to be less even rejections for you to receive. But we have we do intro classes at the library, like intro to publishing classes at the library. And so I'll have people come in, they'll be like, I got 7 rejections, so I think I'm just going to give up. And I'm like, oh, I got 324. Like, you know, so I think it's just like when you've exhausted every one that you want to work with, that's when it's over.
I think it kind of depends too on what's being rejected. I've heard people say that if you've sent out your query letter 10 times and gotten nothing, you should reconsider revising your query rather than putting your manuscript aside necessarily.
Yeah, and somewhere along the way, I mean, you're going to get some feedback, whether it's from betas or critique partners about what's not working. And then you can either decide to fix it or not. But I don't believe you'd go through, well, I don't know, Sarah, maybe I'm wrong, but 300 rejections and not get any more substantive feedback than just a form letter.
Yeah.
We lost some people.
Oh, we lost Gwynne.
Oh.
No?
She's
back. Okay. Yeah. Well, the 300, whatever it was, that was 2 books. So.
Well,
yeah.
And I really think the right answer is when you're so sick of it that you can't stand thinking about it anymore, then it's time to shelve it.
Yeah. It's hard to say.
With the manuscript I went into pitchwars with, I had gotten several rejections from agents, but a couple of them had feedback that was very similar. So I did sort of set aside temporarily to work on those things because I thought I should probably address them before continuing to send it out, but I didn't set it aside and like forget about it.
All right. Yeah, definitely. If you're sending out queries and you're not giving any bites at all, then the problem is either your query or like your first paragraph. But like I said, I was a publicist, so my problem was I could write a query letter like nobody's business, but the book was terrible. So, all right, last question from Amber. If we include a prologue and you don't like it, will you still look at the first chapter?
Okay, I'm answering this. I wouldn't include your I don't want to see prologues. I want to see the first chapter. I don't know about you guys, but I can see the prologue if I ask you for a full manuscript. I'd rather see the first chapter.
So in 2014, I actually did have a prologue, and I ended up not submitting the prologue when I submitted to Pitchwars. I just submitted the first chapter, and I think Sarah was kind of like, I'm glad you did that, because I don't think the prologue was needed. So we ended up taking the prologue and incorporating it into the book later on. So I say first chapter as well.
Anybody else?
I'd probably keep reading.
Yeah,
If you can only submit a first chapter.
Right.
So then you wouldn't get to read very far. You'd only just have the
mean,
prologue.
It depends how, I guess it depends how powerful the emotions are in the prologue for me. If you think it's your best writing, then include it. If you don't.
Yeah, I would say about like 80% of the prologues that I see are not necessary.
I hate to fall in love with what's going on in the prologue and then find out it's something totally different for the rest of the book too.
I've heard of that before too. Yeah.
I will say I absolutely hate prologues that are like flash forwards.
It happens a lot in mystery and thrillers.
Yeah,
I hate the exciting part.
All right. So on that positive note, we've already said our goodbyes. I would just want to thank our mentors because they joined pretty last minute, all within the last couple of hours. And thanks everybody for stopping by and asking questions. And I really let us know what you thought about this platform and what you thought about this format. Because we're still trying to, determine what works best for us for video chat. So thank you all and have a good night.
Bye, thanks, Sarah. Thanks everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Are we all okay?